From Camp KVU Local News, this is Good Morning Northwest.
Good morning and thank you for joining us on this Monday, March 29th. I'm Neil Fischer. We hope you had a great weekend. Kristin and I had a great weekend at the Badger Mountain Challenge on Saturday, and we had great weather. But Sunday took a turn, Kristin.
Oh, it did. You know, we lucked out with that beautiful weather Saturday. But yeah, yesterday, just those winds whipping around. We had a high wind warning, which thankfully early this morning has now been allowed to expire. So let's get you out the door. Let's talk about your Monday forecast for you. Winds, at least in the Yakima Valley, looking much better. They're still picking up a bit, especially from the Columbia Basin into the foothills of the Blue. So 13-mile-per-hour sustained wind in the Tri-Cities, up to 26 in Pendleton. So some of our wind gusts today still could be between 20 to 30 miles per hour. And as far as temperatures go right now, down to 37 in the Tri-Cities, or 33 in Walla Walla, 34 there in Ellensburg, and 27 in Yakima. Clearing out here locally, there's still a little bit of some mountain snow left over early this morning as well. You can see that Monday forecast. We're back to mostly sunny sky, much cooler than those 70s yesterday. 54 degrees at lunchtime and 58 later on this afternoon. Now, temperatures will continue to go up and up once again as we take you throughout your work week. I'll have your full forecast, Neil. It's coming up.
All right, thank you, Kristin. Locally, dozens of protesters rallied on Saturday against Asian hate and other violence toward the Asian and Pacific Islander communities. They rallied at John Dam Plaza in Richland for hours, chanting and waving hands and signs. Organizers say they believe in strength in numbers, and that by showing up, they prove they are here to protect the local AAPI community. Horns honked in solidarity, and one protester says for change to happen, it has to start locally.
We have to build a peace movement here locally and really stand up against those things in a principled way.
Protesters say they are encouraging you to get educated on the increase of violence against the AAPI community over the past year, and they're also hoping that rallies like these will spread awareness about the injustices occurring. And across America, hundreds of protesters took to the streets of Los Angeles and throughout the San Francisco Bay Area on Saturday, the latest in a series of rallies in response to what many have said become troubling surge of anti-Asian sentiments. Rallies against hate also popped up all across the Puget Sound. The small gathering at Westlake Park drew Tony Kim, a Korean immigrant. He says the embers of racism against Asians have long existed, but the coronavirus and the former president fueled the fire.
And then it just kind of gave people a root, like a basis to be like, hey, it's okay to take this Asian racism thing further and further and further. And it snowballed into this whole thing where it's not just microaggressions anymore.
According to Stop AAPI Hate, there have been nearly 4,000 self-reported hate crimes against Asian Americans in the past year. A California congresswoman is pushing for federal prosecutors to call the Atlanta spa shootings a hate crime. After visiting the crime scenes and victims' families in Atlanta Sunday, Representative Judy Chu says the evidence is clear. The California Democrat is planning to meet with Attorney General Merrick Garland back in Washington to make the case.
These are the issues that we need to deal with. And I tell you that everything that we saw today gave me even more determination to go back to Washington, D.C., to ensure that we have our Department of Justice use its resources to call these murders a hate crime.
Representative Chu made the journey to Atlanta along with fellow members of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus yesterday. Opening statements are set to be delivered in the trial of the former police officer charged in the death of 46-year-old George Floyd. Derek Chauvin has pleaded not guilty to charges of second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter, as well as third-degree murder. The charges provide the jury with 3 different ways of determining how liable Chauvin is for Floyd's death, if at all.
Can you set aside everything that you may have heard beforehand and focus exclusively on the evidence as it's presented in court?
The diverse jury panel of 15 includes 3 alternates, but one of them will be dismissed once 14 jurors have been sworn in this morning.
Now, the Gonzaga Bulldogs at the NC2A basketball tournament. Brought to you by Toyota. Save big all March during Toyota's Ready, Set, Go sales event. Toyota, let's go places.
The Gonzaga Bulldogs coming into the day needed just 4 more wins to finish off their perfect season, and the Sweet 16 waiting for them was the Creighton Blue Jays, a team many thought had the offensive firepower to hang with Gonzaga. It turns out those many were very, very wrong. Gonzaga out to a huge start in this game. Andrew Nembhard had a big game as the Creighton defense was focused more on slowing down Timmy and Kispert, so Nembhard was 17 points, and everything else was open for pretty much everybody. Joel Ayayi knocking down some shots, everybody contributing. Drew Timmy leading the way with 22 points and 6 rebounds. Just a one-sided dominant win for Gonzaga. Again, their 26th straight double-digit victory. They're on to the Elite Eight for the 4th time in the last 6 years. Mark Few really happy with how his team's playing right now.
It's a great win for us. Once again, I really thought it was our defense that made the difference tonight. They're a scary offensive unit, especially when you're preparing for them. And I thought we did a really, really nice job, especially on the 3 line.
Up next, the Bulldogs will take on the USC Trojans tomorrow. Tip-off is scheduled at 4:15. This weekend is the perfect time to check in on Washington, D.C.'s famous cherry blossoms. The National Park Service says the first week of April is the peak bloom of the capital's cherry blossom trees. The NPS specifically says it could happen between April 2nd and April 5th. They plan on having limited access to the area during the bloom, but are encouraging people to visit the site virtually instead of in person. They say if too many people show up, they are prepared to close the area. The cherry blossoms are one of DC's biggest tourist attractions. Japan gifted the original Yoshino trees to the U.S. in 1912.
And they're certainly so pretty. I haven't had a chance to actually see them in person like that. It's hard to time it out. To head to D.C. to see them, but they're so pretty. You
don't get a very big time frame to go and see them.
No, you don't.
But they are definitely beautiful. They are definitely beautiful.
They are.
At 6:05, let's take a quick break here on Good Morning Northwest. Before we do, Kristin, how's it look?
Starting to see a little bit of some daylight out there. Clearing out. The sun is going to be returning today, but what about those winds? Will we see any of those improvements? I'll have your full forecast. It's coming up.
Plus, the massive cargo ship that's been blocking the Suez Canal for almost a week is making some progress. We have an update next. Welcome back to Good Morning Northwest. In Egypt, Suez Canal Authority has confirmed the Ever Given is mostly free. Authorities weighed new rescue options to dislodge a ship that had been blocking the waterway for almost a week. Options included digging closer to the front of the ship or alternatively preparing to lighten the massive load of the cargo. The Suez Canal is losing $14 million every day in transit fees, while billions of dollars of cargo is backlogged on over 350 ships currently awaiting passage. Now, crews are working to pull the front of the ship while keeping the stern clear. In a hopeful sign for the economy, travel sites Airbnb and Vrbo are reporting a boom in online reservations. Vrbo, which stands for Vacation Rentals by Owner, is said to be off to its best start in a quarter century. Shares of rival Airbnb are up more than 20% this year, following the company's successful initial public offering in 2020. Airbnb hosts have earned a combined $1 billion since the pandemic began last year. Meanwhile, Expedia's stock, which owns Vrbo, has soared more than 30%. Analysts believe consumers are ready to travel and vacation again with the end of the pandemic in sight. This brings us to our poll question of the day. Do you use Airbnb or hotels when traveling? Vote now at yaktrynews.com/vote, and we'll have those results at the end of the show. Hundreds of people are facing charges for crimes related to federal COVID relief programs. 474 people are accused of breaking the law after investigators identified more than $500 million taken from relief programs using fraud. So far, DOJ prosecutors have charged 120 people who they say targeted the Paycheck Protection Program. Prosecutors have also charged more than 140 people for unemployment insurance fraud since the start of the pandemic. Justice officials are bracing for another wave in attempted fraud cases with the rollout of the $1.9 trillion relief plan. Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, it wasn't just the Tri-Cities that saw some extreme weather over the weekend. We're taking a look at some of the severe storms that swept through other parts of the U.S. when we return. Welcome back to Good Morning Northwest. Less than 3 weeks after signing a historic $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief law, President Biden is set to unveil the second big legislative push of his administration. But this proposal may be a little more difficult to pass because it includes tax increases. John Lawrence reports.
The Biden administration's Build Back Better package calls for roughly $3 trillion worth of new spending. The president's plan is comprised of two separate proposals. The first focuses on improving U.S. infrastructure like highways and bridges.
We shouldn't be 13th in the world. I don't think anyone believes that.
Home-based issues are included in the second part to be announced in April.
Healthcare, childcare, addressing that. It's a crisis right now. The number of women who have left the workforce, he wants to help to address that.
Biden says the Build Back Better plan will create millions of jobs while giving America's working families the tools, choices, and freedom needed to boost the U.S. economy. It also calls for hundreds of billions in tax credits, something Republicans in D.C. are pouncing on.
A so-called infrastructure proposal that may actually be a Trojan horse for massive tax hikes and other job-killing left-wing policies.
Others are concerned about the project's price tag.
Once you go into we're just going to raise corporate tax rates, that's going to be tough because right now infrastructure is funded by the gas tax. So we have to have a discussion about that.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
White House aides say the tax increases will target corporations and the wealthy without affecting Americans who make less than $400,000 per year. Over the weekend, the White House announced President Joe Biden has invited 40 world leaders to a virtual summit on climate change. The two-day Leaders Summit on Climate will begin on April 22nd, which is Earth Day. According to the White House, the U.S. will announce its 2030 emissions target under the Paris Agreement before the summit begins. The leaders represent 17 countries, which are responsible for 80% of the global emissions, including China and Russia. The White House says the summit will underscore the urgency and the economic benefits of stronger climate action. President Biden wants the Leaders Summit live streamed so it can be shared with the whole world as it happens. Police have identified the body of a 65-year-old man found on a Nashville area golf course after a weekend of historic flooding. Douglas Hammond apparently was swept away by flooding and drowned after getting out of his car when it was stuck in high water. The Metro Nashville Police Department have also recovered the body of 70-year-old Gary Cole in his Honda sedan near an area Walmart. Police also released the ages of two other flooding victims, ages 46 and 64, who were found dead near a homeless camp. Another line of severe storms ripped through the South following 23 confirmed tornadoes on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Damage has already been reported following a tornado watch in effect until 11 p.m. Central for portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. In addition to the tornado threat, damaging wind gusts with as high as 75 miles per hour are likely, along with golf ball to baseball sized hail. Cities included in the watch are Little Rock, Arkansas, and Shreveport, Louisiana.
Now, Cap gave you first alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Kristin Walls.
And yesterday, we had that high wind warning in place, and you could see some of our peak wind gusts across the area. Rattlesnakes, certainly the winner there, the 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts. This was yesterday just after the lunchtime hour. West Richland up to about 76 miles per hour. Pendleton there at 73, and then Yakima a little bit lighter, a 56-mile-per-hour wind gust. But certainly keeping things quite active yesterday. We had some trees down, some power lines down in some locations. So we're going to see some small improvements out there today. Let's get you over to some of our sustained winds at 14 in Walla Walla, 26 in Pendleton, 13 there in the Tri-Cities, but looking much better from Hanford, Prosser, and over into the Yakima Valley. Now, we still are hanging on to some of our wind gusts at times close to about 30 to 40 around Pendleton into Hermiston, and then Dayton this morning, your sustained wind there up to about 39. So slowly seeing those winds dying down this afternoon. Still talking some of those wind gusts 20 to 25 later for some spots, but really lightening up overnight tonight and into your day on Tuesday. Tuesday, we should be back to about a 5 to 10 mile per hour wind. A lot of improvement there to the air quality. Good to go. Green here showing up. So we had a lot of that blowing dust yesterday, reducing that air quality, but looking good across the majority of our area this morning as well. Now, temperatures were down to 37 in the Tri-Cities. Connell, you're at 32 with 33 in Walla Walla. Yakima, good morning to you. You're at 27. And then Ellensburg this morning sitting in at 30. 34, and clearing out as well. So we're looking at a lot more sun back in the forecast, the exception, of course, back through the Blues and also the Cascades. There's no more winter weather advisory, but there's still some travel restrictions there. We have chains which are required for Snoqualmie Pass. Traction tires still there at White Pass, and they're still doing some avalanche control work for Stevens Pass early this morning. But you'll see here with Futurecast, we're back to just nothing but some sunshine. Still a bit breezy though for this afternoon. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, lighter winds, and we'll see a nice warm up by Wednesday and toward day on Thursday. Still looking at some pretty quiet weather around the Pacific Northwest. So back into the 50s today from some 70s yesterday, but you can see that nice warm up. Thursday will be our warmest day at 74. And then we're going to be back into the 60s for this upcoming weekend. So highs out there for this afternoon, 50 for Ellensburg with 56 degrees in Yakima, jumping up to about 58 in the Tri-Cities with 57 for Prosser into Hermiston, and then 50 today for Dayton, low 50s, Pendleton, and also for Walla Walla. So overnight tonight, it's going to be clear, just a very cold night, upper 20s, low 30s across the area. So there's your 7-day forecast. Not a drop of rain, mostly sunny through the majority of the 7-day. 68 Wednesday, 74 on Thursday, back to about 67 degrees there on Saturday with 64 on Sunday. And then your 7-day forecast for Yakima, enjoying a lot of sunshine as we take you throughout your work week. 65 on Wednesday, 68 there on Thursday, and then some low 60s over the weekend.
Thank you, Kristin. At 6:20, we're going to take a quick break here on Good Morning Northwest. Coming up next, the World Health Organization has finished its report on the origins of the coronavirus. We have their findings next. Welcome back to Good Morning Northwest. The World Health Organization on Friday said its report on the origin of the coronavirus has been finalized. The origins of COVID-19 have been hotly debated and also become politically charged. A CNN documentary clip reveals the opinion of Robert Redfield, former head of the CDC. In it, he says the novel coronavirus may have come from a lab in China and began transmitting in the fall of 2019. But the chief medical advisor to President Biden, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says there are a number of theories. The Biden administration is reserving comment until it gets to review the WHO report. About 143 million COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered in the U.S., according to the CDC as of Sunday. That's about 3.3 million more doses given since yesterday. With the increase, the 7-day rolling average is around 2.7 million shots in arms given every day. With the latest data, a total of 94 million people, or just over 28% of the population, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. 15% of the total population, or 52 million people, have now been fully vaccinated. The Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine can be stored at normal freezer temperatures for 2 weeks. That's according to the European Medicines Agency. The EMA says that the change is supported by new stability data and that the new storage option gives more flexibility with its distribution. The agency had previously said the vaccine had to be stored in ultra-cold freezers lasting up to 6 months or at normal refrigeration temperatures for up to 5 days. Now to get you out the door this morning, Chief Meteorologist Kristin Walls is here with today's Reason to Smile. Kristin, what do you have today?
So I thought this was perfect. This was all the Monday feels. I feel like, especially with the wind, keeping probably many folks up, lots of yawning going on. Take a look at Sadie and that big yawn early this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, that, stretching out. That's always the best thing too. Like that nice big stretch in the morning.
In the morning.
Yep, but the nice thing is the sun is going to be back, which I'm sure a lot of pets are going to be super excited about.
I know, Sadie looks like she's enjoying the sun.
Yeah, basking out in that sun. So thank you to Cindy Johnson for submitting this photo. If you have one that you would love to share, your reason to smile, just head over to yakchinese.com.
Thank you, Kristin. Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, yesterday's windstorm knocked down trees and even cut power to some locals. We're sharing some tips so you can be prepared for an outage next.
And thankfully, we're going to see some small improvements around the area today. The latest on the winds and what you can expect as we start off your work week. Your full forecast is coming up during the 6:30 half hour.